Lie on your back, extend out your legs, rest your arms on the floor somewhere beside you. And fortunately, we're in a very, very large room. So as the lesson goes on, if you feel like you need to spread out and have more space around you, feel free to do that. And believe me, it's not going to disrupt the flow of the lesson for you. Yeah, because it's quite a spacious lesson. There's not a lot of detail. And you'll have plenty of time to explore. So feel free to change where you are located. So as you're lying on the floor, rather than scanning your body, scan the space around you. Without looking, do you know who's to your right and do you know who's to your left? Do you have a sense of how far they are away from you? Are they within reachable space? If you were to take your arms out to the side, would you touch somebody or not? Without doing it. And then, is there any person that's located above your head? And I don't mean towards the ceiling. I'd like to see that. That would be nice. Someone doing a lesson levitating. Whoa, you are my teacher. But do you have any sense of somebody being above you? Even if you're drawing on memory, this is where I lie down and that person is above me. And then is there anybody below you, in the direction of the soles of your feet? So there's the space to the right of you, there's the space to the left of you, there's the space above you, there's the space below you. Oh yeah, okay, there's the space behind you, which is the floor. And then there's the space in front of you. So out of all those directions, where is the space that has the greatest amount of free area in it? Free volume. To the right, to the left, above, below, behind, in front. And then finally, in terms of scanning for the space around you, do you have a preference? Are you attracted to one of those directions in space? For whatever reason, above you, below you, to the right, to the left, behind, in front. It's like when you're walking down the street and someone's coming straight towards you. Is your preference to dodge to the right or dodge to the left? That kind of an attraction. And now take your attention inside yourself and scan within. And where inside yourself do you feel the largest volume? Is it within your chest? Or within your head, your pelvis? Perhaps one of your legs feels like it has the largest volume. And remember, you're going by sensation. You're not going by logic or what you've seen in an ergonomics book. You're going by what you currently feel. And then the opposite question, where inside you do you feel the place where it's the smallest volume, the smallest amount of space? Is it in your eye? In your little finger? Within your ear? Where is it? Oddly enough, some of you might experience that as being your chest, if you're going by sensation alone, or your leg. Even though they're big parts of you, you might feel them to be very, very small and very unvoluminous. So it might have nothing to do with the actual size of the body part. Now, imagine to yourself making a circle with both feet on the floor around yourself. It's like the pelvis was the center of the clock, and you're going to send the feet all the way around the clock. Imagine, how would you do that? And when you're imagining like this, it's very good to have in the foreground of your attention the attitude of an intrepid explorer. Curiosity. How do I do that? Yeah. Intrepid. Willing to try things and willing to actually go beyond what they already know. Yes? A willingness. And as you imagine that with the feet, sorry, going around to the left. Now the question becomes, how do you generate that attitude inside you? And because of the scan that you've done, notice, do you tend to shrink inside the space that you're lying in, or do you tend to expand? Do you tend to shrink inside yourself, or do you tend to expand? Which one goes with this creation of an attitude of the desire to explore, the desire to know? I want to know, how do I do that? I want to find out. Great. And now please, a little bit at a time, and I emphasize, a little bit at a time, start to explore what you were imagining. Having in the foreground that attitude. Your feet remain on the floor. Yeah, remember it was circling the feet on the floor around you. Now, while you're playing around with that, I'll tell you a story. Feel free to play. One of the famous philosophers in the 1900s was Ludwig Wittgenstein. And he said that a lot of philosophy is solved as soon as we understand the words that we're using. So one day somebody put a problem to him, and the problem was this. You're in the forest, and there's a squirrel on the tree. A little squirrel, little red squirrel, very cute. Collects nuts, you know. Little squirrel on the tree. And the squirrel is going around the trunk of the tree. And as the squirrel goes around the trunk of the tree, you follow the squirrel. And this person put to him, did you go around the squirrel? The squirrel went around the trunk of the tree, you followed the squirrel around. Did you go around the squirrel? And it's a conundrum because he's questioning what around something means. So are your feet going around yourself? Could be just a convenient way of talking, no? Do you consider your pelvis to be yourself? If the pelvis is the center of a clock and you're sending your feet around the clock, is your pelvis yourself? How do you send your feet around yourself, really? Come on. So it's just a way of talking. It's a good opportunity to kick the person next to you, yes? I like you. Kick. Now, you could say that every awareness through movement lesson, or many of them, present to you a puzzle to solve. In movement science, they'd call it a motor problem. They give you a motor problem, a movement problem. And yes, here you are, with one right in your hand right now, a movement problem. How do you send your feet around yourself? With a gun? You send it with a gun. Great. Stop and rest, please. Yes, but on a different part of your body. So there's the squirrel going around the tree, and the person is following the squirrel around the tree. Did they go around the squirrel? What do you think? No, they didn't. Because if the squirrel is going around the tree, it's circumnavigating the tree, but at no time does the person circumnavigate the squirrel. The person's always in the same reference to the squirrel. It hasn't gone around the back of them, the side of them, the front of them. Hasn't. So the person never went around the squirrel. They went around the tree, but they didn't go around the squirrel. So sometimes, someone mentioned this yesterday, when we get clear about the language that we're applying, suddenly the movement doesn't become so difficult. Sometimes it's the language that grabs you and holds you in a particular framework. Oh, look, very good. Now, stay lying on your back, and let's start to deconstruct it a little bit, to break it down into little parts. So as you're lying there, think, how could you take your right leg underneath your left leg? How many ways can you find to do that? And the direction of progress is always from impossible, can't do it. And I can't see that in the room yet, so that's good. So we're in the possible realm. And then from the possible, you make it easy, comfortable. So can you find a comfortable way, an easy way to bring that right leg underneath the left leg so that it starts to go around to the space to your left? And then the question becomes, what do you do with the top half of yourself? And this is where your assumptions come in. Just because you started off lying on your back, it doesn't mean that you remain lying on your back. And as soon as I say that, oh, look, people start to do different things. So to send your right foot further around to the left, what do you do with the top half of yourself? In other words, that part of yourself above your pelvis. And the honest answer is, I don't know, but I'll find out. Because you can't do something that you don't know, so you have to make a creation. You somehow, either by accident, or by design, or by clever construct, you find out, oh, is that really under your left leg? Now it's above your left leg. All right, leave that and rest, please. Now, I don't think I've ever read an autobiography of any world explorer in which they didn't encounter difficulties and problems that challenged them, that challenged their intrepidness, that challenged their passion, that challenged their conviction that they will find something. They all encountered the same thing. And I was going to say in a small way, but it's not necessarily small. We face those moments in awareness through movement lessons. Because a personal discovery is just as big as a world discovery for each one of us. It's what it is. A personal discovery can be very, very important. So how do you cultivate this attitude of exploration, curiosity, ready to meet challenges with yet undiscovered resources? It's the challenge that brings out the new. Come to sitting, please, facing the front of the room. Lean on the floor to your left with your left hand. And now try the same thing that you were doing on your back. Take your right leg under your left, around to the left. Yeah, there we go. And then come back again. Take the right leg under the left and come to the front. And now just make it elegant. So remember, there's always a direction of progress, from impossible to possible, from possible to comfortable and easy. Elegant, which means you strip away everything that's unnecessary. And then finally, aesthetically pleasing. America, I found America, even though I thought I was going to India. So you start off leaning on the left hand, But maybe that's not the thing to do. Try leaning on your right hand for some of you. Yes, check it out. Did I lead you up the garden path? Yeah. That was a definite yes. Now, one other constraint. Leave your pelvis on the floor. So at no time does your pelvis lift off the floor. Now, be careful. Ah, very good question. Great. You anticipated what I was about to say. Yeah. Consider what your pelvis is. Is it just one little point? Or is it quite a massive structure? And if you think it's a point, good luck. Absolutely. The pelvis consists of the two hip bones with the ilia, the ischia, and the pubis, and also the sacrum. So it's almost, you can consider it's almost a sphere, yes? But if you don't have that idea of a pelvis, can you see that your ability to solve this little motor problem would be constricted? Who said that? Not allowed to be yummy, it's supposed to be hard, difficult. Yeah. Yeah, good. That's a nice description. I like that. Yeah. It's like this, right? But the feet have to go around your pelvis, not around the squirrel and not around the tree, around the pelvis. And for the moment, it's easier if you think of the right leg leading. So the right leg scoots under the left, and then it just leads the way, and the left leg, being a good dance partner, follows. Ah, first move, beautiful. Well done. First one I noticed anyway. Congratulations. Okay. Stop and rest, please. Now, when we're talking about movement, you can only do those movements that you have learned. You can only perform patterns that you know. So that creates a little bit of a conundrum. How do you do something new? If you can only do what you know, how do you do something new? That's a rhetorical question. I would say that awareness through movement lessons are these cleverly designed little games, little problem solvings that put you in a situation that something new can pop out. Sort of by designed accident, if you mean. You know, you design just the right conditions and it kind of helps something new to come out of something old. And for that to happen, it requires your interest and your curiosity. Because the lesson by itself is not enough. That's why I'm asking you in this lesson, bring into the foreground of your attention this attitude of being an explorer, curious, wanting to know. Because if you want to know, believe me, you will find out. But if you're not interested, chances are greatly diminished. Please lie on your front with the crown of your head facing the front of the room. So the crown of your head being the very top of your head, that part of your head that's closest to the ceiling when you're standing. The front of the room. The front of the room is not where I'm at. It's over there, where the whiteboard is and projector and all that stuff. Now, from this position, lying on your tummy, take your right leg underneath your left leg and take it around to the left. So that you come up to sitting facing the front of the room. Now, some of you have already done this, but some of you haven't. And for those of you who have already done this several times, perhaps you could start to free one leg from the other so that the legs can move independently of each other. They don't have to remain stuck together like Siamese twins. Yeah? They don't have to be glued together. And they certainly don't have to stay straight all the time. That it's possible to start with the legs straight, bend them, and end up with legs straight again. That's it. Yeah. So for some of you, bending the legs about halfway around really makes it a lot easier than keeping the legs straight. You start off with legs straight and then you bend them and then you straighten them again. And just like those ice skaters, have you seen ice skaters? They start off spinning with their arms really wide and then they bring them in close and they spin faster. You start out you spinning, you just come back out again. All right, stay lying on your tummy, please. Now, put the palms of your hands out on the floor in push-ups position with your elbows towards the ceiling. And have them wide, have the arms wide. And you'll find out in a moment why. And now, a little bit, being quite gentle with yourself, lift your head and your shoulders from the floor and come back down. Head and shoulders. Yes, sorry. That's right. Now, your arms can assist, of course, but notice what parts of your torso start to engage and work to lift yourself like this. Remember, Feldenkrais's definition of lightness is that when the large muscles lift and move large parts of you, then the movement is perceived as being light. But if you try to use smaller muscles to lift heavier parts, it doesn't feel so light anymore. So those poor old triceps trying to lift the whole trunk, yeah, triceps lifting trunk, that could be not light. Yeah, so what about the muscles of the back? So when the arms work and the back works, then do you start to experience the movement being a little lighter? Now, leave the head on the floor, leave the shoulders on the floor, and could you lift the right leg a little bit and put it down? Lift the right leg a little bit and put it down. Sorry, I've got competition outside. He clangs and bumps as much as I do. And is it possible, and I certainly hope it is it possible to lift the leg in such a way that you know how you're doing it? That you know whether your pelvis presses into the ground or your abdomen. That you know whether one arm gets lighter on the floor or the other. That you know whether you're using your left leg to press against the floor to lift your right leg. So long as you're in a flow of knowing, you can be guaranteed that you're in an awareness through movement lesson. Now, leave the right leg down and play with the left leg. And as you lift and lower it, know more and more and more about how you do it. It's one of the most essential elements in awareness through movement, this quest for knowing. That's why you need to become skillful in your attention. That's why you need to be aware, so that you know. And now lift one leg and then the other. And how much of your pelvis lifts off the floor when you do this? Is it just the little ischias that kind of lift higher from the floor? Now lift both legs from the floor and put them down. Slowly, slowly. And because you're an explorer, you want to know. That's what good explorers do. Right, now rest a little bit. Okay, that's a little bit. Put your palms on the floor. Have your elbows in the air. Now, lift your head, your shoulders, and your legs and put them down. And when you do that, notice what part of you do you rest on? Oh, that's lifting your pelvis in the air and your shoulders in your head. Your legs in the air, the shoulders in the head. Yeah, feet are still on floor. Yeah. So for the legs to lift in the air, this is the squirrel question again, yes? Now, if your feet are still touching the floor, that means your legs are not in the air. Ah, see? For the legs to be in the air, the feet must also leave the floor, because the feet are a part of the legs, no? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so we act in accordance with what we understand the instruction to be. Yes, of course we do. We all do. So you just showed me that you think your feet are not part of your legs. You need a lesson about that. My feet, my legs stop at my ankles. Now, play with the proportions. How much do you lift the head? How much do you lift the shoulders? How much do you lift the legs? So that you clearly experience yourself resting on your tummy. And if it helps, you can think of pushing your tummy out. Pushing the tummy out. And for some of you, this idea of pushing the tummy into the floor will lift you. And you certainly don't have to keep your legs straight. Although some of you have chosen to do that. All right, so the next time that you have your head and your shoulders and your legs lifted, stay lifted and begin to push a little bit with the right hand, a little bit with the left hand, so that the legs start to swivel right and left, right and left, right and left. So you're not rolling yourself right and left, but you're kind of, once again, how should I say this? Clearest way. If your pelvis was in the center of the clock, or better still, if your abdomen was in the center of the clock, you'd be swinging your legs 7, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5. 5 being to one side, 7, that's it. And just gradually make the swing bigger and bigger and bigger until you've got enough momentum to swing yourself to the left and come up to sitting with your feet and your legs facing the front of the room. And there we go. And then you just return and you land on your hands with your legs up and your head, shoulders up, and there you are again on your tummy. Ah, good. Yeah, rubber doesn't help, believe me. It's a weird bit sticky. There we go. So placing the arms just right is what gives you the power to generate the swivel. If the arms are too close to your shoulders, there's no purchase, there's nowhere to go, you're kind of all cramped in. So remember the scan about how much space you have on either side? How much space are you willing to occupy to really get the purchase with the hands on the ground so that you can come up easy? There we go. All right, let that be and rest, please. Rest in any position you feel to be comfortable. Notice what's happened to your sense of space around you. And also notice what's happened to your sense of internal space. Are your perceptions changing? Please roll to one side, come up to sit with your legs in front facing the front of the room. And now simultaneously move yourself so that you could place both of your hands on the floor to your right. And then come back. Just do that. And try to put your hands in different places, sometimes a little down more towards the feet, sometimes more behind you. And notice, where do you end up resting when you place both hands on the floor to your right? What part of your pelvis? And maybe it's not just your pelvis that you're resting on, but also the side, the thigh bone, part of the thigh bone that articulates with the pelvis. Now slowly figure out, sense, feel for yourself, where can you place both of your hands in such a way that it will release the legs so that you can swing them around to the left and end up on your tummy. And it's quite an exploration. How far away do you put the hands on the floor? How close together do you put the hands on the floor? There's a few parameters to play with. And some of you actually might be able to go all the way around, right? In one go. Whee, and then you, yeah, okay. Hello. I see your bottom. So when you spin around and you land on your tummy, your top of your head is towards me. That's the feet in the air. You're being playful. That's fine. Yeah, so could you swing in one go all the way around? So you start off sitting, feet to the front, you place your hands on the floor to the right, and you just take the legs all the way around. Are we getting to the compulsory part of the lesson yet? Where you go, whee! That's me being silly. And now that you know that you can circle your legs around, are there different things that you can do with your legs to make it lighter? In other words, do the legs need to stay straight? Or are there moments that you could bend them and extend them? That's right. And they certainly don't have to stay working stuck together. They can have their independence. That's it. And then you just use that whole cantilever system. Yeah, you literally rock on different parts of your pelvis at every moment. Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah, there's an independent leg, there's an independent leg, there's an independent leg. Beautiful, very nice. And by leaning with the hands over to the right, notice how much you release the weight of the legs on the floor. Can you feel that? Suddenly they're able to lift. Do you want to? Have you got an insatiable urge? Yeah, go ahead. Great. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a moment when one leg kind of has to get underneath the other. Yeah, there it is. Yep, yeah. One leg gets underneath and then you're able to go around and then you can give the legs their independence. But if they stay stuck, the head has to go through big spatial movement. Yeah, there we go, there we go, there we go. Yeah. So it's almost like you need to land with both hands further to the right to actually release the legs, release the legs. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, that's it. Yay! There we go. Yeah, cool. Very good. I'm waiting for someone to do a little backspin. Rest on your back, please. Hopefully, sometime during your training, you'll have an opportunity to listen to various lessons by Moshe where there's quite minimal instruction. Yeah, there's very few instructions, but there's a lot of time. He gives a lot of time to explore movements, which gives you plenty of experimental time. But that means that you do have to amuse yourself. Amuse yourself with exploring. And that can take all sorts of forms, playing with little details, looking at what other people are doing and testing that out, considering whether you've got all of yourself in mind. Remember that representation of the 5 lines and the 2 widths and the 4 points yesterday? Yeah. Because when you have resources to amuse yourself with, you can amuse yourself a long time. And sometimes you don't need that many resources. Think of children who just spend hours playing with a cardboard box. And they leave all of their fancy, colourful toys in the corner and they just play with the cardboard box because it's absolutely fascinating. Now, lying on your back like this, remember the original question? How could you circle your feet all the way around your pelvis? Well, how could you? Could you? Go ahead. So that you end up lying on your back in the position that you started. It's not so easy from the back. Right, so let's make a little change. Could you all lie on your front? And perhaps the day that you teach this lesson, when it comes that day that you teach this lesson, maybe you'll make a different choice for a starting position. Something that allows the idea of possibility to be far greater than lying on your back. So lying on your tummy, can you imagine circling your feet all the way around yourself? Yeah, all the way around your pelvis. Yeah. Different, huh? So sometimes the positions, please continue to play with that. Sometimes the positions that we start off in can serve as a good launching place for exploration. And sometimes the initial position that we start off in can inhibit the exploration. So if you really want to challenge somebody's capacity to imagine themselves doing something, put them in a situation that it's very hard to accomplish from, and they'll have to use their imagination extensively. Put them in a more favourable position, and that's not the case. I'm sorry? Oh, you can lift that restriction now. That's like asking Christopher Columbus, now we're going to this unknown land, should we sail a little bit north or should we sail a little bit south? And the answer is, as the wind takes you. Yeah? Otherwise, if you decide to sail south but the wind is blowing you north, oh, you've got a struggle ahead of you. Great. Let that be. Come up to standing. Feel what it's like to stand. Notice how you feel in terms of your weight. Do you feel lighter? Do you feel heavier? But more importantly, notice the sense of space around you and your internal sense of space. And walk a little bit, please. Sense you're walking and sense others around you as you're walking. And how do you maintain this internal, external focus? That you can be with yourself and yet still be present in the space around you. Great. Let's go into a break. We'll come back at 5 minutes to.